Whoops.
It's time for some fun. Fun with He-Man!
Welcome back to episode 2 of my 2-part series on hits and misses, things that I had predicted that were in the movie and that Travis Knight absolutely nailed. And then in this episode, we're going to do the misses, the narrative plot points that didn't make the cut. So first up would be Teela and the Sorceress. So in the larger narrative of Masters of the Universe, Teela and the Sorceress are mother-daughter, and Teela is fated to someday become the next sorceress. So this is actually like a really big part of the Masters of the Universe, all the way back from the 80s and in the new modern incarnations of it. A very solid part of the story, not touched at all in this movie. I don't know if there's plans in the future to go there. Hopefully we'll get the sequels. Hopefully, if not in the theater, the streaming, and we'll find out all about Teela and the Sorceress. Now, part of the larger family structure of Teela and the Sorceress was also that in some versions, Fisto and Duncan are brothers, and that wasn't here. Obviously, the race part would complicate that, not make it impossible, but make it yet an additional plot wrinkle that would have to get ironed out. And then in yet other deeper dives, Fisto is actually Teela's biological father. So very intricate, complicated family dynamics between Fisto, Duncan, Teela, and the Sorceress, none of which were touched at all. I mean, that is almost a movie unto itself. Okay, the next big part that wasn't mentioned at all that I had thought would be there, and in fact, I really thought would have been there, would have been Keldor. So Keldor being the original non-monstrous version of Skeletor before evil and magic transformed him into the villainous Lord of Destruction. Jared Leto looks like Keldor. I thought for sure that the Jared Leto piece to the whole movie would have shown up in the Keldor part of the story, but we didn't get any of it. Again, maybe cutting room floor. There's images, there's footage of Jared Leto being Keldor, being menacing in that form. Maybe that's also part of the larger sort of Jared Leto dilemma and drama where he's sort of distanced himself from the film. We literally don't see Jared Leto's face at all in this movie. Maybe that was something he was not happy with, and that his beautiful face being blue, as Keldor was something he was really proud of, and maybe that exists somewhere. Maybe we'll get a director's cut someday. Or maybe whatever, the drama's not real and he will be back for sequels and other stories, maybe prequels, maybe we'll get Jared Leto's Keldor someday. So speaking of prequels and prequel ideas, although we got tons of Trapjaw, and I loved it. I thought Trapjaw was great. I did think that his demise was a little too violent. That was for another time to go into more of that. But we didn't get any of Cronus. We didn't get Keldor's. We didn't get Trapjaw's cyborged body when he was like just all non-cyborged. So we didn't get any Cronus, and I thought that maybe we would have gotten Cronus, especially in that like early siege when the movie first opened, and which was like 15 years prior to the events of the actual movie. That would have been a great time to have Cronus, because it would have been early in his lifetime. But I get it that like that would have been a stretch if like out of the gates the first scene and the audience that's not super versed in these deep cuts was like, who's that guy? That's supposed to be Trapjaw. Where's his Trapjaw? So I get it for visual cues. We needed to just have Trapjaw be Trapjaw. But who knows? Maybe someday we will get some prequels with some interesting stories about Cronus. Okay, so some other I don't even know if they're misses. They're just like, they were just sort of barely there. Triclops was barely there in the movie. He does have a little bit of fleshed out backstory in some of the comics and early 2000s lore. But typically in the 80s, there wasn't a ton about Triclops either. So he was there, great. One thing about Triclops that was actually a hit, not a miss, is that his fight scenes and Travis Knight's use of him in the fight scenes, I think, were great. The hilarious when He-Man made Triclops sort of blast himself up off the ground with his eye, that type of humor, amazing. I also liked it that he was the one that found them and found the good guy's hideout because he can see everything. Now, also not a ton, Ram Man and Mechaneck, I mean, they were there. They were just sort of like background characters. They had cool fight scene sequences. They did have Mechaneck with his neck, and they had Ram Man ramming, and they even had Ram Man have his hilarious like spring legs. So in terms of like cartoon fandom, it was all there. It was a hit, not a miss, but there definitely wasn't like any story. There was no Philip, Mechaneck's son. There wasn't even, so John Shu Zhang, who's the actor that played Ram Man, is like a martial arts expert in real life. And so I thought maybe there would be some additional martial arts choreography in the movie, but they did not really Van Damme him. He was just in there ramming and being funny. So they were great, but definitely missing background stories or character development. So let me check my notes for 1 second, if you'll bear with me, because I know there's a biggie that I need to talk about. Okay, so here we go. Moss Man. It was a miss for me because I didn't talk about Moss Man at all. I didn't even make a little video of Moss Man, and he was in the movie. But for those of you that saw the movie, he was the biggest whoopsie of all. His demise was quite gory and quite unexpected, but again, maybe in future versions, maybe he'll come back. I mean, he is made out of moss. Maybe they can just like scoop him back up again, give him some fertilizer, and he'll be good to go. All right, so then the last thing isn't really a miss either. It's just sort of like a clarification. We weren't really sure what direction was going to be taken with Roboto, because we knew that Roboto was going to be voiced by Kristen Wiig, but what was that going to mean? Also, Roboto did have various backstories throughout the years. Was he an alien from a robot planet where everyone was a robot? That was one version of him. He was a creation of Man-at-Arms. That was another version. That was what they went with, that he was created by Man-at-Arms, or she, rather, because Roboto was just full-on a female voiced by Kristen Wiig, and with like little to no explanation. Not that really any explanation needed to be had. I mean, Roboto never really had like a sexuality or any sort of like dynamic relationship complexities. Okay, so there they are. There are the misses. There are the things that I talked about in my old awful videos so that I could compile them and make this awful video. I hope you enjoyed it. Maybe moving forward for the franchise, we will get the backstories that exist in the lore, or maybe there's some cutting room floor footage that could get pieced together for, dare I say, a director's cut. All right, well, thank you for joining me for my hits and misses of the predictions and the storytelling that all came out in the Masters of the Universe live action film. Good journey.